Some major breaking news in the New York City mayoral race. Incumbent Mayor Eric Adams, who was running for re-election as an independent, has dropped out of the race. Adams will now be the first one-term New York City mayor since David Dinkins lost re-election back in 1993. The scandal-plagued mayor had been struggling in the polls, with a recent Fox News poll showing him dead last at 8% behind his rivals Zohran Mamdani, Andrew Cuomo, and even Curtis Sliwa. Here's what Adams said earlier in a video announcing the end of his campaign.
Despite all we've achieved, I cannot continue my re-election campaign. The constant media speculation about my future and the campaign finance board's decision to withhold millions of dollars have undermined my ability to raise the funds needed for a serious campaign. I hope you will see that despite the headlines and innuendo, I always put you before me, always.
And joining us exclusively for his first live sit-down interview since the shakeup in the race, Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee in the New York City mayoral race. Great to have you back here on the set. We got to say that we weren't expecting to have you here, so we really appreciate you making time because of the news. I'll start broadly by getting your reaction to the fact that Eric Adams, who is polling fourth, has dropped out, and what this means for the race going forward.
Look, Donald Trump and his billionaire donors may be able to determine the actions of Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo, but they will not dictate the results of this election. This continues to be the same election as it was when we started on October 23rd, a choice that New Yorkers have between Eric Adams' record, which is Andrew Cuomo's agenda, one that has priced New Yorkers out of what is now the most expensive city in the United States of America, or our vision for a city that New Yorkers can actually afford. And I'm excited and just as confident as I was yesterday at actually delivering that vision and winning this race on November 4th.
Do you have a sense of what's behind this decision today? We've all heard that Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, claims that he's been offered large sums of money from powerful people to get out of the way. Do you think that's what's happened here?
No, I think we have to put this in a larger context, where after we beat Andrew Cuomo by 13 points in the Democratic primary, he called Donald Trump to ask what they could do together to defeat our campaign in the general election. And Donald Trump has spoken time and again about how he wants to narrow this race, how he wants to use every tool at his disposal to try and stop this campaign for affordability. And we're seeing, amidst all of that, here yet again, the moment where he is shaping this race, but we're going to show him that New Yorkers are tired of his politics and they're tired of being priced out of the city.
Eric Adams had a warning for New Yorkers in his parting message, and I want to play that and have you respond on the other side.
I must also sound a warning. Extremism is growing in our politics. Our children are being radicalized to hate our city and our country. Major change is welcome and necessary, but beware of those who claim the answer to destroy the very system we built together over generations. That is not change, that is chaos.
What do you make of that message? Do you feel that that's directed towards you and is not so veiled swipe at your Muslim heritage, but also your position, some of your policy positions? What's your response to that?
Well, I think that the only thing I truly find to be extreme is Eric Adams' record. This is a man who's raised the rent on more than 2 million New Yorkers by 12%, a man who slowed down already the slowest buses in the country, one who priced New Yorkers out of childcare that cost them about $25,000 a year. That's what's extreme. That's what's radical. And our vision to deliver affordability, it's common sense, and we're seeing that it's popular across the 5 boroughs. And what I actually think of more in Eric Adams' parting words are the ones that he gave us a few weeks ago, where he assembled a number of cameras and spoke to them directly, that Andrew Cuomo is a liar and a snake. And I think that New Yorkers are tired of that kind of politics. They're tired of considering the architect of this affordability crisis and Andrew Cuomo as being the next mayor of the city. They want a new direction. You talked about how the billionaires in this city were very clear about they wanted to consolidate this race, to have it between you and Andrew Cuomo. Does that crystallization, you think, breathe life into the campaign of Andrew Cuomo? He welcomed Eric Adams dropping out, and there's a lot of questions as to whether or not he will now get
cash injection of money from donors, the Bill Ackmans of the world, who wanted to see Eric Adams out, and then a consolidation of resources behind Cuomo. Do you think that will do anything whatsoever in this race for Cuomo?
It reminds me of what Andrew Cuomo wanted in the primary. He wanted me to be his main opponent, and he got that. And we beat him by 13 points. And that was in spite of around $30 million being spent against us to smear and slander our campaign. And I have no doubt that he will see an influx of donations from Donald Trump donors, the very ones who have been trying to coax these other candidates out of the race. But I continue to be confident that New Yorkers can see through that, and they understand that this is a democracy. It's not something to be bought by an oligarchy. And no matter the attempts of people who are willing to spend more money than I would ever tax them, we are going to show that this is a city that deserves to be one that New Yorkers can afford.
But with the race being a little bit wider now, does that change at all the calculation? Because now it's not just the primary, it's not just Democratic members who can vote in the primary. It's going to be wider in the city.
Well, the affordability crisis impacts New Yorkers regardless of their politics. Right. I've met Republicans, I've met unaffiliated voters, I've met voters who are registering to vote now for the first time, and they tell me the same issues that Democrats spoke to me about: their rent, their child care, public transit, the fact they just can't afford the city. And I know that this is an agenda that will speak to the despair, the disappointment that many New Yorkers have had with politics and politicians. And I understand that, because if Andrew Cuomo was the only example you had of a politician, why would you believe in them either? Our job is to show them there's an alternative.
What do you make of the state of play in the Democratic Party in New York right now? Since the last time we saw you, Hochul has endorsed you. The two of you have appeared together and are clearly finding common ground. But Schumer, Jeffries, still on the sidelines. Jeffries today put out a statement thanking Adams for his service. I mean, this is a person who actually has technically left the Democratic Party now and ran as an independent in this race. So what do you make of that? And at this point, I guess, do you even want the endorsement of Jeffries or Schumer?
Look, I will welcome endorsements from anyone across the city, and I will welcome them because we're looking to build a coalition that reflects the 8.5 million people who call this city home. And I'm proud, as you said, not only to have the endorsement of Governor Hochul, but also of Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins in the state Senate, as well as Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie, because these are the New Yorkers I will be working with to deliver this agenda, to show that the relationship between City Hall and Albany doesn't have to be as tense as it was under Andrew Cuomo. It can be one of partnership and one of productivity.
But do you think those leaders are holding out in service of the people that they serve, the communities, neighborhoods that they walk through and work with every day, or in service of something else?
I can't speak to the motivations. I can just tell you that I'm proud to be building a campaign that we're seeing increased excitement across these 5 boroughs, and a campaign which won the most number of votes in New York City primary history. We saw that the top 3 age demographics that came out were all under the age of 35. We registered 30,000 people in the last 10 days. That's the excitement we're seeing, which is necessary because we can't protect democracy if people lose faith in its ability to actually deliver on the material needs of working people.
So now this is a new phase of the campaign, though. You're in a head-to-head now with Andrew Cuomo, with whom there's no love loss among many New Yorkers that I talk to.
Don't forget Curtis Sliwa.
Yeah.
Well, who I respect because he takes care of animals well. But that said, so back to the race, though. There are plenty of friends of mine who they recognize your political talent, they admire you, but they worry that they're more moderate. They're worried you're going to make taxes higher, that the city is going to become more expensive, that it's going to be harder to do business here. They worry that you're inexperienced. What are you going to do what do you have to say to those moderate voters?
Well, the first thing is that I'm looking to represent them as well. I'm not looking to just be a mayor of the nearly 600,000 New Yorkers who voted for me. I'm looking to lead a city of 8.5 million people. And so much of this general election has been reaching out to those who have questions or concerns and making clear that our affordability agenda is a universal one. It's one that understands that tenants are facing rent hikes that are pushing them out of the city, and homeowners are facing a water bill the highest it's been in 13 years, a broken property tax system, the necessity of having an application of these ideals for every New Yorker. And I know that for so many New Yorkers, small business is where they find their employment. And I've spoken to many small business owners who've told me that one of the most difficult things about operating a business in the city is how Byzantine the city's bureaucracy is to navigate. Mm-hmm. And that's why we've committed to cutting fines and fees by 50% and to looking at all the regulations we have as someone who believes in regulation to ensure that these still have a resonance and an actual reason to exist today. Because some of them, when you ask a barbershop owner how many forms he had to fill out, he tells you 24 forms, 7 agencies, 12 in-person events. How is that stimulating the kind of growth we need in this city?
Is there a policy concession that you would be willing to make in order to woo more moderate voters? Or since you're the front runner, you're ahead by double digits, do you not really have to make policy concessions?
The policies that I'm running on are the ones still from the primary, but I'm also willing to speak to everyone and anyone, because sometimes the concerns are based more on a caricature of me as opposed to who I actually am. You know, there are people who have come up to me and said, how will we be able to pay for free rent? I said, no, you drop the ZE. It's freeze the rent of 2 million rent stabilized tenants. And similarly, people who ask me questions about, is it possible to make buses fast and free? I say the cost would be about $600–700 million, which is less than Andrew Cuomo gave to Elon Musk 1 year in tax breaks of $959 million. Showing people the context that we're in and building a coalition where they may not see themselves in me, perhaps, but they may see themselves in the best and the brightest that I'll hire to surround me in City Hall.
The other side of that coin, I guess, is do you worry at all as you meet with some of these leaders, moderates, business leaders who've wanted to get your time and attention here in the city over the last several months, do you worry at all about losing connection and credibility with the young people who fueled your initial win? I met many of them who said they literally only voted because you were on the ticket, that they were glad you didn't have a relationship with all these people that they despised. But now, you know, as you said, you're willing to be the mayor for the people that they despise. So how are you going to strike that balance?
How do you thread that needle?
Yeah, well, I think what I've told young people and supporters of our campaign across the board is the most important thing is delivering the agenda that excited so many. Because more than people knowing my name, I have people stopping me in the street shouting, freeze the rent, shouting fast and free buses, shouting universal child care. And it's going to take everyone to deliver that. And I think the most important part of it is honesty. When I go into a room with the leaders of the most profitable companies in New York City, we all know that I'm leaving the room in the same way, still thinking that it's right to increase personal income taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers by 2%, still thinking we should have the state's top corporate tax rate be that of New Jersey. There's going to be that disagreement, but there's also room to find other places of agreement. And I think that's what New Yorkers want. They want a politics that delivers as opposed to one that just looks to speak to those who have every opinion they already do.
Andrew Cuomo had some nice things to say about Eric Adams' tenure. I'm going to give you a chance as a person who's stepping aside from politics. Do you think he did anything well in the 4 years that he served as mayor? I mean, he's still on for a couple more months, but do you think he did anything well as mayor of the city?
I think he spoke the truth when he called Andrew Cuomo a liar and a snake. I also think that his steps towards the containerization of trash are ones that are welcome in this city. And I think that City of Yes was something that was good and something should be built on.
All right. I think also you may be the first person on the show to use the word Byzantine. So we'll give you that.
We'll give you that. Zohran Mamdani, thank you very much.
Thank you.